Welcome to the Pitchbook podcast. This is Zach Huish. Today, I have with me Jared Gray. Jared is a business owner, rodeo savant, and council member of Eagle Mountain City, and he is currently running for mayor. We're excited to bring this conversation to you with Jared Gray. Batter up. Jared, how are you, man?
Oh man, I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you calling me and letting me come on and talk about this stuff.
Well, this is kind of exciting. I was thinking we have such a young city in Eagle Mountain. And number one, for those that have been listening to our podcast, when Matt and I started the podcast, we had two rules. One was no politics and no swearing on the podcast. I think we've been pretty good with those two rules. And today we're going to break one of those rules. We have a pretty significant a number of mayoral and city council races going on. And I thought we have such a young city. A lot of people listen to podcasts. I've probably got 10 or 15 podcasts I listen to. And the challenge within our city, a lot of people like to do the Facebook stuff, but you have to kind of sit there, have it open, be watching it. If you're like me and have ADD and you want to be doing something else while you're listening, it closes out the page. So I thought we just need to open it up to everybody, all the candidates running, give you an opportunity to talk about what's important to you. So we're going to offer it up to all the candidates that want to join. But I'm really excited. Jared was the first to kind of roll the dice with us and say, let's do it. So Jared, you'll be the first one out there.
I guess I'm a risk taker. And I do want to point this out, not to open it up because you did say all the candidates, but something that's really big in our city right now and in our area, especially the northern part of Utah County, is a huge election this year because of the split of the school district, which I'm sure we may talk about. I'm one of the ones that kind of championed that and pushed that onto the ballot, and then of course helped propose it to the voters to get our school district. We had 84,000 students almost, and
wow.
It's so we have 7 school board seats with 2, 3. There's only one seat, 2 that's uncontested. But I mean, how many would that be? Like 20 plus candidates that are running for school board. So huge election cycle. I know you won't have time to get all of them on, but the council and the mayor, and then of course the school board's a big deal this year.
Yeah, somebody else is going to have to do all the school board stuff. I don't think I can catch everybody, but mayor, city council for sure. And that was a big task. So a number of years ago, there was a need to put a middle school in Eagle Mountain, and they put it out for a bond. And if you're not familiar with the geography, we kind of like the east part of the valley and the west part of the valley. And the people on the east part of the valley said, I'm not paying for a school in Eagle Mountain. And the bond didn't pass. And I remember thinking, this school district is too big. And why would they want to pay a tax for us, right? So I think a lot of people are on board with the split, but all the revenue and tax dollars, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that for a minute of why you were pro splitting the school district.
Yeah, it was a really big feat. And I'm telling you, there were a lot of reasons. Of course, you kind of nailed it. I want to start off by saying, first of all, I would have loved to stay together. Yeah. I think on the east side, they had a group called Stronger Together. And I'm just going to say, I believe we are stronger together as long as we are together. And that's a big part of my platform is unity and lifting others, and being together. We are, one person can lift so much, 2 people can double that. Yeah. Not double that, but again, 50% more than what one person could have done. So I always believe in there's strength in numbers, there's power in unity. But really what it came down to is exactly what you said is it got divided to where people were more focused on just their own needs and what's important to me and, what's in my backyard. And I don't care about what's going on maybe on the other side of the valley. And so that kind of drove a wedge. And, one of the points, kind of like you said, financially, they didn't want to pay for things on our side of the valleys, and they outnumbered us. So they could win those votes. But the real discrepancies were we on the west side of the valley generated more of the income in 2022, according to the MGT study, which was a group out of the Midwest, and they did a study that showed we were generating $27 million more than we're spending on our side of the schools.
Wow.
And the east side's at a deficit of 17 million. But that was before we did all those tax rates. According to my numbers, it's closer to $50 million positive on our side. They've raised, the Alpine School District raised property taxes 7 out of the last 10 years. A lot of people, that's important here in Eagle Mountain. They think their taxes keep going up and it's our fault on council. We haven't raised taxes at all. It's actually the district that's raising those taxes. So just some points of interest that made it to where, in order to continue and to supply and support the students of our side, a split became imminent, and it ended up split in 3 ways. So you've got the central area that decided they could better focus on their needs if control is a little more local, and the south side is going to be able to take care of their needs. And really, at the end of the day, all 3 districts are going to be strong. I think they're going to be healthy. They can start working together and sort out their specific needs, which we all have needs, and we'll all be able to address needs on an individual basis. What we need to do is build schools. What they need to do is take care of the long-standing history of Alpine School District that's been in the South, and take care of their needs.
For sure. It's a young city. I have a daughter in elementary, one in middle school, a daughter that just graduated high school, and my wife is a teacher at the high school. So we've got vested interest in all of those things. So let's go back just a little bit. Tell us about your background. Like, where did you grow up? What were your hobbies? What was Jared like as a kid? Tell us a little bit about the genesis of your life. And I know you own a business. I'd love to hear a little bit about that as a business owner. I would love to dive into that and kind of that transition over into a mayor, how that'll impact your life.
Man, this is going to be an interesting little dialogue here, because you're gonna be listening to me for a long time if I go into any details. But yeah, I've had a really fun life. If you start right off at birth, I tell people I was an orphan. I was born in St. George, Utah, and my mother gave me up for adoption. So I immediately was an orphan and became adopted. And my parents that adopted me were in Lehi, Utah. So I was sent to Lehi, and I'm telling you, I was blessed with a great life and good parents that took care of us. I had an older sister, not my sister, but they had adopted a girl before me, then me, and then they adopted another boy 3 years later that's just younger than me. Luckily, they were able to have kids later on and had 2 more. So there's 5 of us growing up, 2 natural cabooses there at the end, and then the 3 of us that were adopted in the beginning. My older sister that I mentioned, she's in Provo. I think all the other 4 of us are out here in Eagle Mountain. So we still hang out. We do a lot. We go camping, fishing, the outdoors kind of stuff. That's how we were raised. I was raised on a little small hobby farm. My dad loved horses and riding. And so I kind of took a love for that. I'm the one that probably picked it up the most out of that stuff. But as I was growing up, and my dad, I tell people too that to this day, I'm not really sure what his hobby is. And this will become relevant as I talk. I think it's just service. My dad has taught me a life of service. That's all he does I bought a tractor a number of years ago, and I keep it down there in Lehi. I actually have 2 now because I have one out here. But when it snows, he's driving around the neighborhood, taking care of people's driveways and helping people move. And he is always busy, 84 years old now, and all he does is serve the community. He served on the Lehi Roundup Rodeo Board as one of their board of directors for a long time. And through that, I became one of the board of directors at Lehi Roundup as well, which, little tangent, kind of is what got me started here in Eagle Mountain. I'm the president of the Pony Express Events, one of the businesses I helped start. And we put on some of the events here in Eagle Mountain, including the Derby and the rodeo and some concerts and other things. But yeah, that love of service, I think, was instilled in me by my dad. But before I get into why I was running for mayor and the service and that, I better finish my life story. So I graduated, of course, Lehigh High School. I served a mission in Chicago. I don't know if you've heard of it, different country. Chicago's
I've been
wild,
there.
man.
I've been on the South. I've been to a White Sox game. Last year we went. It is a little bit of a
Dan
different.
Ryan, back in the 90s, it was pretty wild. But
oh, yeah.
So I got to spend a little time in Chicago. I came home and got married. My wife was from California, and we kind of settled here in Eagle Mountain, which is another fun part of my history. My wife's mother was the first mayor here in Eagle Mountain, and she's one of the four partners that basically started Eagle Mountain.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I live in the very first house ever built here. I bought it from my father-in-law. He passed away this year, actually, but we bought it a couple of years ago from him. And so I've been here from the very beginning. In the beginning, I was dating my wife, but then after that, of course, we bought that house, the very first house here at Eagle Mountain. So I've watched it from the very beginning. Now, with that, I should back up just a little bit. Through high school, I worked for Jim Smith. He's the owner of Cedar Valley Farms. Still a popular name here.
Yep.
If you're in Eagle Mountain, Smith Ranch, if you look at any of those streets, Grant Street, Rose Street, James Street, those are all the people that farmed out here.
I lived on James Street.
That's Jim Smith.
And I was talking to Jim once, and he said, "Now, where were you exactly?" And I said, "Well, there was a Rose Street and there was a Grant Street." He said, "Well, Rose is my mom.
Yep.
Grant's my dad. You lived on my street."
That's right. That's exactly right. So a lot of the city out here was, of course, the Smiths had a big influence. They still have property out here. So I grew up farming. I like to tell people I was growing wheat wherever we're at. Whenever we're talking, I said I probably cut wheat or safflower, alfalfa, wherever we're standing, because this whole valley had almost 40,000 acres of dryland wheat and safflower. Anyway, huge farm operation. So I grew up kind of farming and had a love for that. And through that, I learned how to drive trucks and tractors and everything else. And when I turned 21, I got home from my mission. Immediately, I started my first company, which was the trucking company, Gray Trucking. I still have it today. And that's, I'm down to one truck, though. Well, that's not true. I have two trucks. I sold the trailer the other day. So I have one operational truck and one that's trailerless. But I started the trucking company and then went into excavation. I also helped my mother-in-law, of course, was into real estate once I got married. So we had a real estate company. My brother-in-law and I started a mortgage company. We were going gangbuster in different companies and different experiences. And I think that's relevant, especially some of the biggest things we do here in Eagle Mountain are land use. So I have a really, really good understanding of land use and contracts and real estate, things like that. But then the excavation, actually how it's built, not just the paper side of it, but the actual work of it. And then the mortgages, I understand finances very well. Of course, I haven't done mortgages since I think 2005. I only did it for about 4 or 5 years, but it gave me a good understanding of that stuff. And so multiple different businesses. All throughout that time, I was also rodeoing. Back in 2001, 2002, I actually qualified for the Team Rope and National Finals. So
really?
I went to the finals.
That's pretty serious. Like getting to nationals I used to rodeo a little bit. People don't know that about me. Team rope and calf rope.
Yeah.
Wasn't that good.
Yeah. Probably now I'm not either, but at the time I was on a heater, they call it, right? I was doing pretty good.
Were you heading or heeling?
I do both. So I heeled mostly. I went to the finals heeling.
Okay.
But then from about 2016 to 2019, I was professional rodeoing with a friend of mine, JJ Lund. And we actually switched ends. Depending on how we entered, I headed quite a bit for him. And I competed here at Eagle Mountain. I've competed in Lehigh. I've been to all the big rodeos. So
wow,
pretty fun. I went to Houston. I've been to some fun rodeos.
So you made this transition. You're still running your business, but I think you've been on the city council for, is this you're halfway through your second term? Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So what made you decide, what, I'm going to cross over from maybe the developer side over into politics? Like, when did you cross that line, or what made you want to come over into public service? Because it's a non-paid gig, right? City council it's a lot of time and no pay and a lot of complaints.
Yeah. And there's a few things clear up. Number one, they do get a little bit of a stipend, but I'm going to guarantee you that we spend more than we get. So
okay.
I can't say non-paid just to be fair, but sure. It's not worth it.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, really, it kind of started. I mentioned that I was on the Lehigh Roundup board. The Eagle Mountain had started a rodeo back with Mayor Heather Jackson, and they were doing a great job, but it was super expensive and a small city at the time. And there was just some controversy on whether or not they should keep it going. And a few of the citizens that were here knew that I was in the rodeo business, and that they kind of came to me and said, "Hey, we need you to help us save this rodeo. What can we do?" And I said, "Well, I've got some ideas that we could still make it viable." Uh, a lot of the things Chris Pangra had campaigned on, it was a big heated race that year for mayor. He wasn't wrong. The money was definitely a concern, but I had explained to him I think I could come in and do it a lot cheaper. In fact, at no expense to the taxpayers. And to this day, we run that rodeo with zero help from the city for the most part. They help us, no money, no tax funds. Um, so anyway, they kind of got me involved in that. And I was going to meetings, and I was already, as we got into that, I was already serving on multiple different boards. Just like I said about my dad, I was kind of driven to serve. I was on the cemetery board and youth council, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, Parks and Rec. That's where Melissa Clark and I first met, was Parks and Rec. And
Oh, okay.
so I've served on multiple boards, and every time somebody came and asked me to serve, I don't know if I was too dumb or what it was, but I just always said yes. So I should slow that down. But like my dad instilled in me, I just had a desire to serve and lift where you stand kind of attitude.
Yep.
That
Yep.
if I had the time, any energy and time left, it was given back to the community. So through that, I ended up getting appointed to the Planning Commission. And on the Planning Commission, I had ran for city council and actually didn't win. But I continued to serve on the Planning Commission. And then the next time I ran, I was elected to the city council. So it's kind of that driven to serve idea. But I did want to clear up too. You mentioned I still run those businesses today as that transition. I had built my excavation business up to, excavation trucking kind of hand in hand, dirt trucking, up to almost 100 employees, 80 something employees. And we were doing about $21 million a year in revenue, something like that. I sold out in about I think it was 2017, might have been 2016 with my excavation. I was kind of tired of riding that wave of up and down, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. But I sold my excavation. I kind of started selling my businesses one at a time. Of course, I mentioned the mortgages I sold out much earlier. And then the trucking in about 2018, 2019, I started selling that down. And so a lot of people have this concern about me, about my businesses. I'm down to one truck and one employee.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I'm almost completely retired. I'm at a point where my businesses are kind of have moved on, and I generate income in other ways. So I don't run those businesses much anymore, but I'm still kind of, it's still right there relevant, but not as much. So.
Gotcha. So, tell me a little bit about, like, as you've been on city council. Well, first, I just want to kind of point out. So the planning commission, correct me if I'm wrong, but the planning commission is where, let's say I'm a developer. I want to develop a property that we own, and maybe it was approved 10 years ago by a different city council. The developer comes and says, we're ready to build this community. They bring all of their plans, like the master plan, to the planning council first,
That's right.
correct? And
Yep.
that planning council, on the planning council, you really spend a lot of time going through all the ordinances and rules and make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. Is that correct? Before it goes to city council, it goes
Yes.
there first.
So I think the key to that is the city council is the legislative body. They're the ones that make the rules and the approvals and things like that on most things. The planning commission role, it's a state mandated. I mentioned I served on all those other boards. Those are citizen boards. They're within the city. The planning commission is a state mandated commission, and they have specific roles to do with land use. So in our case, mostly chapter 16 and 17 of our municipal code.
Yep.
If it's something in that code, it goes to the planning commission. So they, of course, vet the applications for against the code essentially, and make recommendations. Now, most of everything they do, and prior to last year, was they were a recommending body. So they would recommend it to the council to either pass or deny or change or put conditions. And then, of course, the council would see it after the planning commission, and the council would either agree with the planning commission or not. Most of the time, I would say they would agree, or maybe modify a little bit, but kind of hand in hand. It's just another set of eyes to vet any application, but it's not the final say, except for, as of last year, things like final plats and things like that. There are some things that the planning commission is the final say. Variances, for instance, I'm calling them variances. They're conditional uses, things like that. The planning commission is the authority on those. So you can go to the planning commission and get your authority, and you're done. You don't have to go to the planning or the city council.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
And the mayor has also acts as the executive part of the city government, but also can vote with city council, correct? Like
so
kind of
in some cases,
crossover.
excuse me, our city's a little bit different in that. And I will tell you one of the reasons that I'm running, and I'm not afraid to say this, Tom Westmoreland, our current mayor, and he have had multiple conversations. This is actually a point we disagree on, is forms of government. He's a federalist. He admits that. And the separation of powers. The way our government's set up, and there's multiple ways from the state that you could choose to operate a city. In our case, we're called a 6-member council. 6-member council. The mayor is the what you call the executive, but they actually are part of the council. The only real executive powers, without getting too deep into it, is the power to lead the meetings and the power of appointment. So he conducts the meetings, but he doesn't have separate authority from the council like an executive branch does up at the federal level or things
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
So yes, and he also doesn't vote except for in the case of a tie. So that's the way our government set up, is a 6-member council. And although he is somewhat of what you call the executive, it's not executive powers that are separated from the council.
Got it. Okay. So there's no veto authority.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's kind of a big thing to understand. So as you are running for mayor, what are some of the philosophies you have toward governance? This is a non-political or non-party race, right? But everyone has a philosophy that they're hardwired, I think, that's very difficult to change.
Yep.
What would you say those things are, those principles that kind of guide you towards governance and making decisions? Like, what are the principles that you walk through as you're making decisions as the mayor or as part of the 6-member council?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question for me, because for me, it's about leadership. And obviously we have principles and that guide us, especially morally. I will say I'm a conservative, especially financially. I'm physical conservative, that I don't want to tax people. I don't want to charge them. I want them to have land rights and freedoms to do as they wish with their property, things like that. But within certain guidelines, of course, I believe in all the freedoms in the world until it affects someone else. And I think that's the key, especially with land use, to make sure that we're a community and that we respect other people's rights as well. So I think that's part of my decision, the way I would weigh decisions. But more importantly, kind of in that same question, is how are we going to lead and how are we going to govern? And through my years as a business owner, especially with multiple employees, I'm very good at not delegating, but at letting people do their job, and making sure that everybody has a role and that they know that I believe their role is important and that they can do it. And even more importantly than that, I'm a big team builder. And like I talked about service and the other things, I'm a unifier. I think that we can do more together. I feel in our city right now, one of our biggest problems is the division between the mayor and the council, and the mayor and the staff, and the council and the staff. And we might not all be pointed in the same direction. I feel like with me as the mayor, that we'll all be on the same page. One of the reasons for that is credit. And I'm not talking about just taking credit. But if you notice how I run Pony Express events and some of the other businesses, that's the one that's easiest to point out that people will recognize.
Yeah.
If you come to the rodeo, I've told the announcer, I've told others, don't say my name, Jared Gray and his board. Say the board or say someone else's name. Because and if they ever do say my name, or if I'm out in public and people say, hey, really appreciate what you do with the rodeo, I always tell them, look, it's not me, it's the people behind me. I couldn't do it alone. It takes all of us. So I think with that kind of a principle, just showing how I've already operated, but more importantly, telling you that's how I will operate. As the mayor, I'm going to use the council for their strengths. I've got weaknesses. And there's other council members who will step up, and I'll be able to point to them and say, hey, this is actually something that you're better at. Why don't you handle this or go to that meeting or that? And we all will play a role in making sure that the city unifies and that we all work together for the common good. And same with the staff. The staff's really liked working for me, working with me, because I'm the kind of guy that says, look, I'm not the expert here. Why don't you tell me? Obviously, I'm the one that sometimes has to make a decision, But I always listen and we work it out together. And sometimes we can come to a better synopsis that way. And through that, the people feel validated. They feel they'll work harder for a guy like me because I'm more of I use the movie Braveheart sometimes in my analogies. I'm more of the William Wallace type that gets out front and says, I'm not asking you to go do the work for me. I'm saying, follow me and let's go get this done together. And we become stronger that way, rather than the guy over on the other side on the white horse is saying, send the archers or send this guy, just kind of bossing people around. I'm the guy that gets right in with the team. And with that, they want to work harder. They want to do a better job. They respect that. So I feel like that's kind of my philosophy in leadership. And that's also my philosophy in how I build people up and get a better team and kind of, just the leadership in general, but also the ability to work through the decisions and listen through to other people. I'm the first one. I started saying this a lot on council, and now others have picked up on it. When there's a 4-1 vote, for instance, I said, well, if I was the one, it's probably because I was wrong. And so I need to pay attention. Sometimes it is principle based, and we feel strongly about something. But I'm also the first to admit when I'm the one that was wrong. So I'm not the only one in the room, and you got to, especially not the smartest one in the room, and we got to listen to others and be able to evaluate, and kind of sometimes that will mold our decision making.
So what I heard in there is we need a William Wallace sword and a kilt.
Yes, I'm willing. I have my grandpa. I met my mom when I was like 35, my birth mom. We ended up finding her. I'm never met my dad. I don't know anything about him, but my
That's
grandpa
awesome.
served in the war. He has an actual Japanese samurai that he got from the war. And he passed it on. He's passed away, and he gave it to me. So I've got the sword. I need
you
the
got
kilt.
the sword. You need the kilt. All right. Let me zoom out just for a second. I feel like these races are so critical. I mean, we always say that about politics or elections, but this one for the city feels like we could move in some different directions. And so when you zoom out, you look at the school district split, that's a pretty big dynamic. Talk to me, living here in Eagle Mountain, it's like the road infrastructure, the building. I know a lot of people complain about the building, but it's like, well, that was promised 10 years ago. And
Correct.
now it's like, there's nothing this current city council can change about that without bringing on a huge lawsuit. But maybe talk to us about how can in the mayor role, it seems like you could champion more infrastructure, more build out. The state it seems like, putting a lot of pressure on cities, especially Eagle Mountain, to just build more housing, which creates more traffic. And tell us a little bit about what your approach would be to bringing some relief on the road system and traffic in Eagle Mountain.
So as part of an excavator's job is I actually build roads for a living. So one of the things that's important about that is understanding how to build roads that will last. So it's what's below the road that's important. And I understand how to build good roads and roads that last and roads that are effective and efficient. So that understanding, I think, helps me go in the right direction to make sure that we can get the right roads, but more importantly, it's the location and where we need the roads and how we get from point A to point B, right? That will help the traffic. So there's so many moving parts in that. And of course, you talk about roads and then housing and the different growth. And first of all, I want to say not to bag on any of the previous councils or mayors, but we have come a long, long ways compared to where we were. And we've been making huge strides and great steps as a team. Every one of us has played the role in that, Airport Road and the expansion of Mountain View and all the things that are coming. A mayor does have specific roles in that. Some of that's out of our control. We can advocate, we can scream and kick and yell, but decisions are made at different levels, like the state or regional, like at MAG with the Mountain Land Association of Government. But it's up to us to get involved and make sure that we show people what it is that we need so that we can at least advocate for those dollars, because it's more about funding than it is about building roads. It's where are we going to pay for it?
Yeah.
As I mentioned, we don't want to tax people any more than we have to. So sometimes it takes time to build up those funds. And in the meantime, it's a little painful. But we are making huge strides, but there's a long ways to go. And part of that is with housing, which is kind of one of my greatest accomplishments, is slowing the growth.
Tell us about that.
With clear back when I was on planning commission, and you talked about the approvals of the past, I remember hearing over and over and over from different council members that their hands were tied and they kept approving, maybe large developments or multifamily stuff that we didn't want. And they didn't want it either. But all they tell us, our hands are tied. We have to do it. It meets the code. We can't do anything. And I said, well, then change the code. You're the legislative body, right? And I've seen other council members, and I ain't not going to call them out. I won't be dirty in any way. I run a clean race. But other council members who might direct staff or ask somebody else to do the work for them and kind of point fingers to hey, get this done just so that I can sit here and vote on it. I run a little bit differently. I was on planning commission. It was Rich Wood and I and Brett Wright said, well, if our hands are tied, then let's untie our hands and change the code. And Rich Wood was mainly the scribe, and Brett and I kind of dictated some of the terms and changed stuff around. But the three of us completely rewrote our zoning code. We had three systems. The tier system had three: tier 1, and tier 3. Tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. My brain's faster than my mouth. And that was allowing just all kinds of flexibility, but it also meant that there was flexibility, but at the same token, they always pushed for the highest density they could get, and it was allowed. So we made a system where we have foothill residential, and then the single family residential, multifamily, and then broke those into categories and kind of changed our zoning code. Now, what's important about that is through that process, they said under the tier system, our 52 square miles of Eagle Mountain was projected to have over 300,000 people in it. With our new zoning code, that change alone, somewhere between 125 and 150. So it's not something that I take lightly, but I can say me personally, Brett and Rich, changing that zoning code, cut our growth in half through one action, and that was the zoning code.
Wow.
So that was a long time ago, and people are saying, oh, they're still filling the growth. Well, that was stuff that was passed before we changed the zoning code even. Recently, we haven't approved very much, no multifamily housing and hardly any developments. Most of what you see is stuff that was passed before. But because of those changes, we've already shown that we know how to control that growth and be smart about our development. Now we're more prescriptive. And sure, there's still growth and we need growth. But also on that same note of growth, what our city's done over the last 5 or 6 years is economic growth. We have absolutely changed from where we were a bedroom community, mostly housing, to we've seen some large corporate investment in Eagle Mountain. That's also going to be huge for our school district and our city coffers, so that we won't have to raise taxes. We're going to generate a ton of tax money. You hear Mayor Westmoreland talking about we could be one of the richest cities in Utah. I believe we'll be one of the richest cities in the Western United States.
Wow.
I've seen the numbers. I've seen what we've got going on, which is another thing, and I won't shed too much on this, but I believe that we can start talking about a rec center. And I was an anti-rec center guy.
Okay, that's on my list. That is like a hot button for a lot of people.
Yes.
Like, give us somewhere to swim, work out. Yeah.
Yep. I'm one of the only ones that's saying that with this economic growth, as soon as we start seeing that money coming in, we're talking about power growth and data centers and Tyson Foods and restaurants in our downtown area and more grocery stores. I think we're finally at a point where we can start talking about it. Now, we're not at a point where we can afford it yet because that money's not coming in. But as long as all these businesses do come in and provide the tax impact that we suspect they will, then we can afford it. We can start talking about rec centers, at least start talking about the design, and then maybe 5-6 years down the road, have one under construction. So wow. It's not going to be overnight, but we're in a position where it takes 2 to 3 years just to build one. And I think 2 to 3 years down the road, we can start that process.
Okay. What about, can you, so a couple of things that just popped in my head here. The Facebook and Google data centers, is the Facebook database or data center is complete, correct?
Yes, mostly. I think there's still a little bit of work. Okay. They were doing it in phases. They call it an H because the building's shaped like an H. There was originally 5 H's designed. And when the MGT study was done, for instance, with the school district, there was 2.5 H's. I think they are just finishing up the 5th H. And they do have the option for expansion. They have a little bit of room for expansion out there. But I believe for the most part, the 5 H's are completed and they're just doing some internal stuff.
And is the Google site going, or have they paused? Or
Google paused. So the problem is, and I mentioned power a minute ago, Rocky Mountain Power is, of course, the power provider for Utah. The entire state of Utah right now uses right around 4 gigawatts of power in the entire state. these data centers are very power thirsty, and especially with AI coming on board.
Yeah.
So Google put in a request. I believe it was around 800 megawatts, type of it, almost a gig, which is 25% of the power of the entire state, right?
It's a lot. Yeah.
So production is the problem, and delivery. We got to produce the power and then deliver it. Well, Rocky Mountain Power basically denied the ability to connect to their power because they don't have enough generation for that.
Okay.
So in the meantime, as a city, we've allowed for some on-site power generation through natural gas turbines. They're basically big cat motors, engines that will turn turbines and create energy. So we've allowed that for Tract and QTS and some of our other data centers. Because Google has not been able to secure power, they do own the land, they're ready to go, but they have not started construction until they have a power commitment. And I think we've got that worked out. Whether or not they decide to come back, they've had to kind of move on because of the time is of the essence. But I think now that if we can work out that power issue, they'll be able to come back.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about, I was listening to one of your videos, and you were talking about this downtown idea, which I agree. Eagle Mountain doesn't really have a heart, like a place to go to or to hang out, or it's just like a rows and rows of houses with some dentist offices here and there. Tell us about downtown. Like, what's your vision of this Eagle Mountain downtown idea?
So I've been saying for a lot of years that we need a new city hall. And I know not every candidate believes that. I think 4 out of the 5 do. But our city has grown so much, and our employees, and the city hall that we built back in, I think it was around 2005, we built that city hall. And to be clear, that was originally intended to be a public safety building, like a police department, for instance. It has a courthouse.
Yeah.
The dais that we sit at in our council meetings is built to be a judge's chambers behind where the recorder's office is. So it was designed as a public safety courthouse type building, knowing that eventually we'd need another city hall. So I've been saying we need the city hall. We need the city hall. We've outgrown the old one. We're finally pushing forward with that city hall. We bought ground. We've got 20 acres, kind of by the Ivory Barn, if you know where that is. With that, we are going to do kind of a downtown feel with some shopping and walkable, maybe some skating. It's going to have a little bit of a Main Street feel, and shops and restaurants and grocery stores. And right in the heart of that's going to be our downtown, our city hall. That's very much needed, by the way. And because of the other economic stuff that I've talked about, I believe we can do it again. We'll have to bond for it, but very little impact, if any impact, on the residents. I think we're going to start generating a lot of income, and that city hall will be paid for, which, by the way, I want to point this out. It's not just Eagle Mountain wanting a new fancy building. I think there's 25 city halls in Utah under construction. Orem, Provo just finished one, Mill Creek, St. George, Santa Quin, Lehigh and Saratoga, both of our closest neighbors. Both Lehigh's under construction, Saratoga's under construction. And it all has to do with growth. I think every one of those you can point to growth. So we're behind them, if anything, but it's not just to be reckless. It's 100%. We need a city hall just as bad as everybody else.
Do employees in Eagle Mountain? I know a lot of people. Some people commute. Like, I work a lot from home. I commute to the office sometimes. Do employees in Eagle Mountain, do they work from home or hybrid, or is everybody like
yes,
office?
Some do, and there is some hybrid. And a lot of people work in the field, right? So our parks department, do we need 25 offices for each employee? We don't even have, I think we have 8 employees in the whole parks department, by the way. But, they don't all need an office. Most of them are out cutting grass, and, maybe just a department head would need an office. But I think what's important to point out about that is, yes, we have a little bit of a hybrid system, but it's more of the management and the clerical staff and things like that we're just outgrowing. And we're already renting 2 other buildings that we've got full to capacity. So we've got staff in the south end of the city. We've got south by the golf course in the north end. We've got staff in the current city hall, and we've got staff kind of spread all over in our different buildings. And we're renting. And for me, of course, we know the best way to wealth, of course, individually, is through home ownership. It's the same thing with the city. Why are we paying rent and making everybody else wealthy when we could have our own building and make our city wealthy that we can use for other things like rec centers, right?
Yeah.
We need to own our own destiny, and we need a city hall rather than paying rent for all these office spaces. Our financial people are all in offices where you pay your bills. So this building's to help our citizens, but they got to have a place to go to pay their
Right.
bills and their utility bills. So an office, a central location where we can have an office, more centralized in the city too, by the way, is super important on my list.
Where are those 20 acres? Where will that be built?
Across from that ivory barn on,
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So
kind of in
yeah,
that
that's
area.
kind of in the middle. And that's Airport Road, right? Goes kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
right
basically
there.
Pony Express and Airport Road in that general area. I think it's on the south. It's between Mid Valley and Airport Road.
Okay. So let's say you get elected one term 4 years from now. How will Eagle Mountain be better off having a Jared Gray as mayor? Everyone like raving and wanting you to run for a second term. Tell us what Eagle Mountain looks like 4 years from now from today.
Well, I think the best way to say what will I do and what will be different is to show what I've already done. I will continue to do the things I've already been doing. And it's all of the hot button items that everybody talks about. I will continue. I'm one of the ones that really got Airport Road done. And I'm not going to take credit from anyone else that says they advocated for Airport Road. Everybody wanted it. I'm the one that had the foresight to actually put the bond in place that would actually pay for it, that would actually get it done. So, of course, roads is a big deal for everybody. So I will continue to stress roads. Mid Valley Road up over the mountain to Saratoga Springs is our biggest push right now for, I think, for most of us. But I've been working with our lobbyists at the state to get that designated to a state road. And with that, working with Saratoga and Lehigh to get a road across the lake. So we need to have other east, west, and north, south options to help people kind of spread out.
Yeah.
So once we're all spread out, we won't be bottlenecked going through Lehigh just to get to Provo.
Yeah.
We can kind of go different ways, north and south, and spread us out to where we're not. So that's what's going to help the traffic. Roads is a big deal. I will continue to stress our housing. I'm a big push for bigger lots and more diversity in housing. And I realize that's not for everyone. There's still a place for
Sure.
condos and townhomes, but it's got to be balanced. And so I'm the guy that's going to balance that. And there's a lot of things that I'll be able to do. And the other one, I talked about unity. I just want to touch real quick on the things that I've done for unity in our city. If it wasn't for the things that I've already done, I don't know what events we'd even have in our city. It would be, I mean, I'm not saying anything from the events department, but some of our major events, I'm the one that brought back the 4th of July fireworks. I'm the one that puts on the rodeo, the Derby. I started this year, we just funded a Christmas tree lighting like what's in New York at Rockefeller Center. We're going to all come together for what we're already doing a Christmas village. When it gets dark, we're going to gather around a Christmas tree, have a little ceremony, and turn the lights on like they do in New York and Rockefeller Center. So that's an event that I did. So I believe that I'm the one that can continue to bring our city together to help us grow and unify. Just in the events, which I believe are important, even though they're not essential. I think of getting together is important. I'm a guy that can unify our city, bring us together, have some of those fun events, and then also take care of some of our needs at the same time. And have us pointed in the same direction. I think that's the biggest difference is get us on the same page, get us working together and getting more done.
Yeah.
So more of saying just continue the same.
What's been your biggest life obstacle? Like when you look back over your life, what was like the hardest thing to push through? If you don't
Man,
mind sharing.
this is this one. I'm not going to get emotional, I hope, but
You
I've had
already
some
talked about
struggles.
being adopted, like right out of the gate, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, abandonment issues, right? Nobody wants me. No, it's I actually look at a glass as half full. I've got a really positive attitude. I teach team roping schools, so I teach people how to rope, and in the rodeo business, it's another thing I do. I teach long range schools, long range shooting. I'm a big advocate of outdoors, and I'm an instructor for that. So I love teaching, and through those, I always tell people I learned from some world champions about attitude and like for instance, if anyone's ever called me, and it's funny because they're like, "Why do you always say that?" Like, you call me and ask how I'm doing, I says, "Man, I'm doing great," and it's not good. How are you? That rehearsed response, because of my attitude, and I've learned from those world champions that you have to have a positive attitude to win. And if you talk bad about yourself, the next person will talk bad about everybody else, and not to tear yourself down. So I try not to do that and build people up, like my team building I've talked about. But talking about the obstacles, I started my first business in 1999, the trucking. Was just young and inexperienced and whatever. I started with one truck, got two trucks and three trucks, and kind of was expanding when the World Trade Centers got hit in 2020 in 2001. And the hard thing was, and I talked a little bit about that roller coaster. Man, I was already broke. I was already struggling. And then all of a sudden, nobody would go to work for a month or two. And I'm like, I got bills to pay, right? So
Yeah.
I was super hungry. Uh, and then we finally came out of that. Winters, of course, are hard in the construction industry. You get cruising along. 2004 and 2005 were really, really good. I bought my excavation company in 2005 and grew that to be really big. And of course, the housing boom came in 2000, or the bust. I mean, the housing bust came in 2007 and 8. And this is probably where I would say I took the hardest hit, and where I struggled the most in life is I was killing it. I was in my mid-20s, making more money, going on vacations, and just really, really doing well. I had all those business. That's when I was doing the mortgages and real estate and everything. Um, and that hit, I actually, in the middle of that, I had an employee loss where one of my guys got killed on the job. He got ran over by a loader. So now I've got every agency under the sun crawling up every whatever, that I have, and investigating and trying to find blame. And of course, one of my best friends and employees is one of my managers passed away, and I'm dealing with a funeral, and I'm dealing with a housing crash where the work's drying up. I'm not getting paid, and this actually got brought up to my attention a while ago that I'm halfway proud of now, but not proud of, is through that. I had about $3.5 million that people weren't paying me. By that time, most of my businesses were paid off free and clear, by the way, and that I wasn't getting paid, and people were going bankrupt on me. So through that, I ended up having to file a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which I'm not going to shy away from. It's been brought up, and I'm going to get it right out here in the open. But what I want people to know about my bankruptcy is it was a Chapter 11, and what that means is I had to reorganize some debt because people weren't paying me. The people that I had spent money, I bought the pipe and put it in the ground for their development, and they walked away. I turned around with Chapter 11 and still paid every single person off. I didn't leave any of my vendors hanging. So I think that's important to see about the integrity is, yes, did I declare bankruptcy? Sure. But the way I did it was to restructure so that I could have a little time to get everybody paid. So I came through that Chapter 11 through, 2008, 2009. I got everybody paid back by refinancing all my equipment that was paid off. So I had to take out more loans and pay it off a second time. But in the meantime, I kept my word to everybody that I borrowed money from, and I paid them back. So I think that shows what kind of person I am. I kept my company. I paid my employees. I made it. So again, it's the management side of it. Some people might look at that as oh, you're not smart enough you had to do bankruptcy or whatever. You got to remember the situation.
Yeah. '08 was awful. I worked in the stock market, so
yeah,
it was
I
tough.
promise you, I wasn't the only one that had a bankruptcy back then.
No.
But my bankruptcy was a little different. I felt like I owed it to the people, and I keep my word. I'm a man of my word, and I kept my word, and I got through that. And of course, built the company up again. And through 2012 and 13, we started doing good. And I mentioned the 01, the 05, the 07, the 09. It was a roller coaster for me. And that's when I said, as soon as the economy got really good in about 14, 15, 16, I'm like, I'm selling out. Why I can't?
Yeah.
Because I had everything paid off again. So that's when I sold my business. And honestly, it's been good ever since. I should have stayed in. But I was just beat up and wore out. And I thought it was a good time to get out. And I got a little money so I could go do other things. And that's when I started a guiding company and kind of just changed my interest. But that was a really, really tough time in my life, losing an employee, fighting through a bankruptcy, and then making sure that I kept my integrity and still did the right thing and paid people that I owed and kept my employees fed. And, that's
those are where lessons are learned, though, like in those hard times.
I think it taught me a lot. Like you said, my marriage became stronger, my relationships with people, the trust. I never didn't answer the phone. And anybody that calls me knows that today. I'm not afraid of hard questions. I've been asked hard questions, and I'm telling you, you might not like the answer, but I'm going to give you the right answer, or at least the answer that I believe to be the true answer. And I learned how to face adversity and come through it victorious, in my opinion. I built the company back up, and then I sold out, and I kept the trucking. So it's funny, the trucking was the first one, then excavating, then real estate, and then mortgages. And I sold the mortgage company. It kind of went in backwards order. So the only thing I have left is the trucks, and it's I learned a lot, and I feel like those experiences is what molded me into who I am now, and that allows me to do what I do.
What is your biggest success in life?
I don't know. I think the biggest success is just a variety of different things. I think I've got a lot of friends, a lot of people like me, and a lot of people like working with me. One of the things I like to say is a lot of the employees that worked for me, that they'd quit. Back when I had a lot of employees, oh, they thought the grass was greener somewhere else. 6 months later, they'd come ask for their job back. They said, "Man, you're the best guy I've ever worked for," because I'm fair with them. Does that mean I didn't yell at them ever? No, I disciplined where it needed to be disciplined. I'd chew them out when they needed to be, but then I'd say, "Let's go get some lunch. Let's work this out." I was always very forgiving, and I think just my attitude is really my best attribute or best success is the ability to have a hard conversation and then still express that love and appreciation for the good things that people do, and to be able to draw them back in and just make them a better person, and
Yeah.
those are some of the things that I just feel like I've really been able to do.
Well, this is the Pitchbook podcast. So why don't we wrap up here and just tell us, I mean, if you look behind me, I love reading. Mostly nonfiction is what I like to read, but everybody has different interests. Tell us what are you reading? Like where do you spend your time when you're
So
not
funny enough,
rodeoing, not
I
governing?
study a lot, and I'm like you. I read all the day long. I haven't even owned a TV in over 8 or 10 years. I don't even have a TV. I have my phone and my iPad, and that's about it. I'm not even a computer guy,
Yeah.
but I don't watch TV. I don't waste time. I don't have time for any of that. I give a lot of time back to the community. I'm always busy doing something. I don't have time to watch others. I have, because I'm busy out doing things. With that, I study and read a lot. Not as much novels. I'm like, more the nonfiction stuff. I'm usually studying, like for instance, I subscribe to a lot of magazines. The Bugle magazine, which is the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, which is one of the businesses, my hunting business and shooting. Also, some long range stuff. I'm always studying long range shooting, and then in the rodeo, I got the Pro Rodeo Sports News, it's called, which kind of tells you what's going on in the rodeo world and tells you where to enter, and so I read a lot and I study a lot. I don't know that I have a specific book in mind, but I'm always studying and reading current events. For example, I'm always staying up on what's going on and stuff like that. So I read a ton, but it's more about the events and what I have going on, I guess would be the best answer.
Yeah, that's great. Well, tell us where can people go to learn more about your platform, your vision for Eagle Mountain? Do a
Yeah,
little plug for us
for
here.
sure. I just thought of something too before I go into that.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, I've got almost 6 years, 5.5 years on the city council, and our packets come out every other Thursday. We have meetings every other Tuesday. Some of those packets are anywhere from 400 to 800 pages.
Jeez.
So I'd say most of the time I spend reading our packets. That's what I read. I
That is
thought of
a
that
full
after I said it.
time.
I'm like, that's a pretty good joke. But we read a lot of information on the city council packets. But yeah, I would love anybody that would like to vote for me. If you're undecided, I respect all the other candidates as well. But you can find information on Jared Gray the number 4 mayor.com. Obviously, social media platforms under my name. But yeah, Jared Gray 4 Mayor is my website. Love to see people. If you got questions, reach out, text. I'm not a big emailer. I'm going to throw that out there. As mayor, I think I'll be a better emailer because I have more time at a desk. I'm an outside guy, so I don't
Yeah.
email a ton. But I answer my phone every time it rings. I answer text, and sometimes on Messenger or Facebook. I try to, at least in the evenings before I go to bed, I'll check, make sure I haven't missed anything on Facebook. But I'm not even a huge Facebooker. I'm not good at it. So
That's okay. Podcasts are where it's at anyway.
That's right. That's right. I like this stuff. I do this. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself. I
Yeah.
drive a lot, of course, in the trucking industry. I don't drive a ton. I have employees, but I do drive a lot. And I listen to like Jared Halverson. That's a religious one. I listen to him almost every week, and a few other different rodeo podcasts like Rodeo 101. And
Right
Tommy
on.
Joe Lucia has a podcast I listen to. So I'm just like you in that. I like to listen while I'm driving and doing other things. I don't hardly even listen to the radio either. So
No,
no TV, no radio. I'm into this other educational stuff.
that's awesome. When is the election and how do people register to vote?
So obviously get online and register to vote at the Utah County website or the state websites and make sure you're registered. We need voters. And for me, the election, really the important thing for me is August 12th is the deadline. That's the primary. There's 5 of us that will get whittled down to 2. And if I can't make it in that top 2, then the election's over for me. But
But you'll stay on city council.
yes, sir. I
Is that
got 2
right?
more
Okay.
years, 2.5 years
Okay.
left on city council, and we'll see where that goes. But August 12th is the primary. And, not a lot of people vote in the primaries. They're more used to voting in November in the general election. I'm telling you, that primary is important.
Yeah, it's
And I
key.
want everybody to get out to vote. And then, of course, November is the general election. I hope I'm one of the two still standing in there.
Okay. Well, I wish you luck, Jared. Thank you for your time today. And I know we've got to let you go to get off to another campaign event, but we really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll get this published and out to the city of Eagle Mountain here in the next couple of days. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the work that you do and all the citizens that help us too. So thank you.
You're welcome.